Singing to a single star.
Welcome to the magical realm of seeking the light of 1,000 suns. Join us on this journey as we delve into the mystical world of eclectic witchcraft. Brought to you by Maya Skyrika, Gia Storm, and spiritual advisor Lily McNamara from lilyofthelight.com. Together we share our eclectic tips and tricks with listeners at any stage in their chosen magical path. Get ready for engaging discussions, diverse knowledge, and a community that embraces the sparks of magic in your life. Please follow and share our content so we can reach as many like minds as possible. Don't forget to check out our extras available on our Facebook page and website, www.seekingthelightofA1,000suns.com. Thank you for listening.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us with Seeking the Light of 1,000 Suns. We are on to part 2 of the Clairs. My name is Lily of the Light. We are here with Maya and Gia. How are you guys doing today?
Good.
Wonderful. Awesome. I love it. So we left off with actually Clairgustance, so taste. So let's jump right into the very controversial topic of Clairempathy, because a lot of people have some misconceptions about this one. And this one is emotional transfer, embodies the feelings and mood states and motivations of the people around you. For me, I know that it's one that it's a gift that a lot of people have, whether they know it or not. They're just hypersensitive to the people around them. But then also, I feel the biggest struggle with this gift is discernment. Is this mine? Is this emotion mine? Is this motive mine? Is this impulse mine? So that's something that I struggled with for many, many years. How about, what's your guys' favorite part or sticky wicket about Clairempathy?
My sticky wicket would be that I feel like with a lot of the things that I follow on social media and stuff, I think a lot of people get Clairempathy and empathy confused. You can be empathetic to things around you, and that includes birds, creatures, objects, and things. Whereas Clairempathy is like just a slight notch more, where you're actually feeling the feelings associated. Like, for me, the downsides of Clairempathy, well, there's good ones too, would be like talking with someone, and as they're going through their struggles, your heart hurts, your throat gets a frog in it, you cry with them, you become down with them. You see an animal get hurt, and it's like you can feel it like pulling at your heartstrings, not just out of concern for the animal, but more than that. It's really hard to describe. I
agree.
Do you guys want to touch on that a little bit? Because I can give examples, but I don't feel like I'm expressing enough about what the difference is.
So I have an example, if that'll help. So empathy, absolutely, you're being aware and sensitive to people's emotions and situations around you. And that is a human experience that I think everyone should have. Some people lack it a little bit, but that's life. Clairempathy, I'll give the probably the most profound example for me. And I knew going in that it was going to be hard. I went to a funeral. And I didn't know the person very well. It was one of those like family friends that I met like when I was little, but my parents hung out with or something. And so we're at the funeral, and I am in my late teens, early 20s. I'm still, fairly young. And I clapped my hand on the back of the pew. It's a Catholic funeral. And I start just like barely being able to hold on. And I ended up like kneeling and everything. And it's because I felt everyone's grief wave over me. during the funeral to the point where it was overwhelming. And even though like I knew this human, but I certainly was not curled up in a ball for this human. I didn't know them well enough. But I was feeling everyone else's grief, and my mom was like, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, everyone just loved her a lot, and I'm just feeling it. And it was actually so overwhelming that after mass, I was put into the back of a car that was going to stay at the church and like placed in the car. Like my mom walked me out and was like holding my arm up, and she put me in the back of the car, and I was like, I cannot go to the burial site. I'm like, I don't think I can stand. And so I literally just like curled up on the back seat of the couch or back seat of the car for like a few hours. Yeah.
I am so glad that you brought that up, because that must be a common theme with Clairempathy.
Mm-hmm.
Because before I learned ground centering and shielding, I had to actually call my doctor for Ativan before I could go to any funeral.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Because
yes.
Same type of scenario. It was so crippling that I was falling downstairs. I was knocking over like the flowers that they put up above on like pedestals and stuff by the casket. Like I had no functionality at all.
Yeah, it's like it makes your knees weak. Like it's overwhelming. You're almost like disoriented by this cloud of grief. And I think that's a really good example. The other example is malls. So if you have anxiety, if you are neurodivergent, absolutely, like if you're social anxiety, anything like that, introvert, malls are hard anyway. But if you have Clairempathy, that's a lot of energy and stimuli that you're feeling. And when I was in my mid-teens, I actually like stopped going to malls because they were too overwhelming, and I hadn't learned how to like ground or shield yet. And it was just so, and my mom, bless her cotton socks, she's fabulous, like would get so frustrated because we would be there for like an hour, and you're supposed to be there for like a couple hours, like get all your shopping done on the list. And I would be curled up in a ball near a pillar going, get the car. Like, I can't be here anymore. Now I can go to malls and be fine. The Mall of America is my favorite. But no, so funerals and malls, places where there are a lot of people and energy is heightened and there's so much energetic stimuli, Clairempathy is real. And in those situations, I think it's important to do the things that Clairempathy needs. And I think as far as the Clairs go, Clairempathy needs a lot of TLC to be effective and not be a hindrance at experiences that you have no control over. So I think that like grounding, centering, breathing beforehand is all very important. If you're going to a funeral, if you're going to the mall, obviously do those things. If you ever get stuck in a situation where it was like spontaneous dance party, which sounds amazing until you feel everyone's energy, go into a bathroom. Go into a bathroom, whether it's a public bathroom, lock the stall or lock the bathroom door. Then do your breathing, then do your grounding. Disengage from the energy that is overwhelming so that you can center and really feel your feelings, and then go out with shielding, with being grounded and centered, and that will help a lot. I think that this is one that needs maintenance as far as the Clairs go. How do you guys feel about that? Do you think it needs, what do you guys do to handle Clairempathy, or think that would be healthy for people to know?
What about you, Gia?
Sorry, so I know this one's kind of a tough one, because at least for me, I feel it. I could feel it hundreds and hundreds of miles away, right? Or by touching objects, or hearing the same sound someone else is hearing. And for me, it's definitely it definitely becomes an overload of my senses often enough where I have to shut it down. And basically just focus on it only when I truly feel it's necessary. But by doing so, when I shut it down, I wonder, are there things that I might be missing that I should be feeling, that I'm supposed to be experiencing in that moment to either help someone out or if I'm supposed to do something. So this is where Clairempathy for me, I mean, it's such a complex topic, and it's difficult for me to be very black and white with it. There's so much gray with it. I mean, I have to shut down often when I walk into a house, and I have I had my real estate license. I chose not to renew it recently just because the economy. And it didn't matter if I was walking into a vacant house or not. The emotions left behind are always present and always strong. And if I didn't shut it down before I'd walk into each home, I would not be able to do my job properly. I mean, it would be so distracting for me. And so I often had to shut it down. So, I mean, if anybody's having those kinds of issues too, I mean, I don't know what the right answer is for, turning it on and off. But for me personally, I have to turn it off often. And only turn it on when I feel it's absolutely necessary. It's a very powerful Claire.
The one thing that I feel is absolutely beautiful about Clairempathy is if you can get a rein on it with grounding, centering, and shielding. Clairempathy also makes you what they call the wounded healer.
Mm-hmm.
And you are very, very good with healing abilities as far as, energetically projecting, Reiki, and other types of like energetic healing modalities, as long as you can separate yourself from the person that you're working on and you've tuned yourself to those things.
Yeah, it's the discernment part. It's as someone who works with people on a regular basis and as clients, I have people who aren't trained, who aren't do this, like say, "Oh, aren't you just exhausted?" No, like it's what you said. You have to be conscious of the situations that you're going into, and you have to adjust your abilities like a dimmer switch as you need to. And it's not supposed to be draining. It can be overwhelming at times, absolutely, like funerals and stuff, no doubt. But grounding, shielding, this spiritual hygiene that we should all be doing makes that so much better, and knowing the situations, as they come up. So that's how I feel about it. And let's touch on the difference. So everybody, again, this is part 2 of the Clairs. In part 1, we discussed Clairsentient, and now we're going to discuss Clairempathy. And I want to touch on the similarities and how they kind of hold hands. That, Clairempathy is a lot about emotions, energy, and motivations, where Clairsentient is a lot about sensing and physical connection and touch. So like feeling a spirit's hand on your shoulder. And I believe that these can happen at the same time as well as individually. How do you guys feel about that? Do you think it's an either or a both and for Clairsentient and Clairempathy?
I definitely think it's a both and.
I'm kind of in the same boat. And I don't know if that's true for everyone, but I can say that I'm in that same place, that they come hand in hand and separately. They're almost like a 2-for-1 special sometimes.
Yes, I love that 2-for-1 special. I think that also brings us to a myth that some people have, that any gift should be used one at a time. That's not true for the most of them, at least in my life. Like, I can use my claircognizance and my clairvoyance at the same time. I can use my mediumship with my clairalient. So, like, these two hold hands a lot. They are like very, very common to come together. But none of our gifts have to be one and done or done separately. In my experience, as well as if that's how you roll, you do you, that is awesome. But just letting people know that it doesn't have to be one at a time. It can be 5 gifts at once if that's how your spirit's rolling, you know? How you guys, like, do you find that in your lives?
I kind of swim in the pool of most of them, but I do feel that a lot of people that I see anyway, tend to only focus on one at a time, or they only focus on the ones that they have strengths that they know of in. But yes, they are very powerful in combination with each other in many instances. But if you're not grounded, centered, and shielded, like you said, the emotional hygiene, it's too much. I mean, it can energetically, physically, and mentally be overwhelming.
Oh yeah, and that's not what you want. You don't want burnout or anything. And yeah, everyone just needs to learn and adjust to what works for them. And there are some gifts that are dormant or secondary or less used, and they can come out at the strangest times. Like, when I think we talked a little bit about it in part 1, that I like a dog licking peanut butter off their gums. Like, that is the, like, way I get with clairgustance. Like, I will just start like smacking and moving my tongue around. Like, it looks very comical. If someone ever gets it on camera, please share it with me. But it's like, it can come out of nowhere and you're just like, oh man, that's a bubblegum flavor. That's Cousin Earl or whatever. So sometimes they can just come out of nowhere and surprise you.
Gia, I know that you use a lot of them at once, most often.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's. I have this, like, it's pretty much the same. Like, I swim in this gigantic ocean with most of these every single day, and it takes a lot of practice. It takes a lot of mistakes to really be able to learn to balance them and go about each day. Having them, I don't like, for me, it's all like, it's like an abstract painting. Okay. It's not, there are no clear cut lines between the Clairs or the Tellys or any of them. It's really just this beautiful mixture of all of these different colors. And it's almost, for me, I always like to say, when the universe needs me to know something more importantly than the others, then that Clair ability will shine through the brightest at that moment. And then I go with that and I trust that process. And that allows me to really enhance upon what it is that I'm supposed to learn from those messages. If I'm supposed to help heal someone, if I'm supposed to shield, if I'm supposed to relay a message to someone else, etc.
I love that. That's awesome. And I love how you explained it, that it's a beautiful color. And as you were saying that, I was like, oh my gosh, yours is almost like, a beautiful abstract watercolor painting.
Yes.
All the colors are beautifully blended and move and fluid, and it all makes this picture that's all encompassing and evokes emotion as well as knowing.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like that is really powerful for you, Gia. I think that's how like when you're explaining it, that's how I took it. Like, does that make sense?
That was actually spot on, and I'm really glad that that what I said made sense.
Yes, you are a beautiful watercolor of psychic ability. I love it. I love it.
Yes, thank you.
But that brings up, we all see our abilities very differently. Like, Gia is a beautiful watercolor. I always tell people I'm a Swiss Army psychic. Like, each of the tools is neatly packed away. Each of the tools has a purpose. And it's like, for a job, you can use more than one tool. Occasionally, you need the corkscrew and the little knife. But, so mine looks, the way I interpret my gifts and the way I feel about them, they're always in my pocket. And I can feel them and they're next to me and I know they're there for me. And I can pull them out and very calculatedly choose what to do for a situation, like a Swiss Army knife. And we all see our gifts very differently. So like, that's how I see mine is I always tell people like, oh yeah, I'm just a Swiss Army psychic. It's just always in my pocket, just hanging out. And yours is a watercolor. Maya, what's yours? What you got going on? Are you a painting, a pocket knife? What you got?
I'm kind of like a light bright.
Ooh, yeah.
You take those things. You take those little pegs, and when you want the light to show up, you plug it in the hole.
Yes.
Yes.
So it's kind of like the Swiss Army knife in a sense, but I think the way I'm explaining it differently would it be, it sounds like you can intentionally whip it out as needed, where me, it's more so I have to probe, if that makes sense. It doesn't just drop in.
That makes sense.
I have to probe for it.
It does. It makes a lot of sense. And that brings up, gifts are natural and you're born with them, and they are work. So if you just sit there and it's like, I'm going to get the psychic ping, that's not always how it happens. Some of us have to light bright it. Some of us have to mix two different watercolors together, two different paints together to get the effect we want. Like, it really is individuals. And I'm going to do a shameless self-plug because I just finished writing a membership to help people discover their spiritual gifts and how they're going to work with them. So if you want to learn, if you're a Swiss Army knife or a light bright or a watercolor or whatever, you may be a garden, and that would be awesome too. Please go to lilyofthelight.com and schedule, because this is, if you couldn't tell, we love this stuff and we get totally into it. And if you want to learn more about your gifts and abilities, that is awesome.
So how long is this session?
So the first session is usually 30 minutes, but the program is a year and a day. So you'll be able to transform your abilities and get on point and do them with discernment and grounding in a year and a day with monthly visits. And then throughout the month, you get a bunch of other stuff with the membership. It is wild. Like, my memberships aren't inexpensive. I will be honest. Like, you actually have to commit to this because it's a lot of work. But my competitors, people around me, like, they're doing it for $3,000 and $5,000 a month, and I am not charging that because, quite frankly, that makes me pee a little, and I'm not. No, I want you to get the most out of it while committing to it without having to go into debt. Would be just lovely.
So it's an actual program where you on a schedule, build upon all of these things then, correct?
Yep. You discover what your gifts are. You discover how you ground, how you center, how you shield. You use the gifts. You're given exercises every month to be able to build your gifts. You have to journal every month so that you can keep track of everything, and then we'll keep track of your progress. So It's a full program and I love it. And I just finished it. I don't even think I told you guys about it yet.
You didn't.
It is that new. It is something that I've been working with my marketing team and we haven't even rolled it out yet. So this is, for those of you listening, you get first crack at it. And
Awesome.
it is amazing. I love it so much because I wish there was something like this around when I was little. I got a mentor that I saw like a few times a year when I first started, and it was awesome. I loved her, but I wish there was something that was like a course I could take that really, and most courses are only over a weekend, and it's like, well, that's great for the weekend. You make a lot of progress, but I want this to be, I want you to use your skills like I use mine every day without shame. I want this to be incorporated into your daily life, not just one weekend that you carved out of your busy schedule.
Awesome.
So yeah, so that's my shameless plug. Please go if you want to learn more about your gifts and really rock them out. Please let me know. The next one, okay. Now, I'm going to preface this by saying there are no favorites. No gift is better or worse than the other. I really like this one, ladies. This one is the shit. Claircognizance. Oh, yes. It is fabulous. It is clear knowing. It is just knowing. It is the gut feeling. This and clairvoyance are the two that I use probably the most in my business, but then also like dealing with my family and taking care of my family if they need anything. I love this one. I'm going to hand it over to the both of you because seriously, I'm going to squee the whole time and I'm going to go up on tangents. And so what do you guys think of the fabulous Claircognizance?
Oh, I love it too. I mean, I think actually, I actually pick favorites, but then I end up favoriting pretty much all of them at some point or another. I love this one. It has helped me to avoid bad situations so many times.
Ooh, the warning bell, Gia. Yes. Talk about the warning bell of Claircognizance. The danger Will Robinson, if you will.
Yes. So when I was a teenager, I did not heed the warnings. And it wasn't until a little bit later on in life that I always knew, but I finally embraced this ability in full, even to the point where if I go to pick up my phone when it's ringing, I get a yes or a no. And if I get a no, I'm not taking that call. Because it is that gut feeling that, and it just sounds a little goofy even when it comes to like a phone call, right? But whoever's on that other line might actually attack my energy at that moment. And so pressing no, I'm utilizing what I was given as this knowledge to not answer that call and not deal with that shit. And I love it.
Well, and when you honor your abilities, you're actually keeping them tuned.
Yes. And you feel it everywhere. Even when you go to the grocery store, right? And or you go to sit down in a restaurant. The restaurant one, because I am very particular about the way food is prepared. I have a very diverse palate, and I'm a bit of a food snob. And I know from this ability, if the food that gets put in front of me has gluten in it, which I'm severely allergic to, or if it was not prepared in a sanitary way, So like the more, yes, like you said, the more you acknowledge it, the better this develops. And it even can get to the point where you could go to a restaurant, sit down, and someone puts your food in front of you and you hear a "do not eat that" in your head. And you don't eat it. And thank God you don't eat it, because other people at your table might have complained about throwing up that night or having diarrhea, right? You can tell them to, but then of course, then you'll have to explain exactly how you know it, and not everybody understands that. So sometimes we all have to live and learn.
I think you bring up a good point about you can use it. Your gifts are meant to be in your daily life. And while there are epic and awesome psychic pings that you can get with your clairs and other gifts that can change your life like in huge ways, there's also the "should I leave now to beat traffic" ping? Should I
Yes.
eat that? Is this going to upset my tummy? You can use it to answer any and all questions. With that, I warn that you don't jump in and now every single question you have becomes like a psychic question. Because
Yes.
I've seen people do that and it becomes all consuming and it's just really not healthy. However, like you can use it in any aspect of your life. So Gia, you use it when you go to restaurants. I use it at the grocery store. I sit there and I'm like, okay, body, because what does my body need? But then also, what is my soul attracted to? And that's how I pick produce, because it's,
Yes.
you know, I don't eat the same foods all the time. And so it's like I will randomly get cherries and be like, this is what my soul needs. And guess what? Day one, whole bowl eaten. Like, oh, I must have needed that. And so it's really amazing how we use our gifts and our abilities are able to help us in so many aspects of our life, mundane and otherwise. I set up when I was younger and I did this huge training for advanced energy healing in Chicago. During that, I set up a warning system in my soul for dating. And I still use it to this day. That was,
Yes.
oh God, over 15, almost 20 years ago now that I set that up. And you can do those things with your gifts, with your intentions. And I set it up to be foolproof because let's be honest, anyone who knows me knows that no matter how psychic and in tuned I am, the wind blew and that meant this complicated message is not me. I need it to be a giant sign getting hit with a 2x4. And so I set it up that I would see specifically cop lights on a police car flashing. And every single time it's been a no, and I have moved on, and it has been fabulous. So those are some of the cool things that you can do with your abilities as you move forward. Everything.
To add to that, because I really like that you gave those specific examples too of how to hone those in. I used to live in Colorado, and it's a very different gun mentality out in the West, but actually, which I think is spread everywhere. But anyways, we had a lot of shootings in Colorado, a lot of tragic violence. And shortly after a massive tragic mass shooting occurred in the Denver area, when the next Halloween rolled around, I was taking my son to the usual place I used to go in Colorado Springs, because all the stores on this historic strip would do trick-or-treating for the kids. And I was there, and then I was going to take him downtown for the store, to take him to the stores there. And then I I kept hearing a no downtown, no downtown. So I said, okay, you know what? He's gotten enough candy, right? So we loaded up in the car. I looked at the exit for downtown again. And then I heard no in my head. And so I drove past it, started taking us home. And my ex-husband texted me while we were still driving home and asked where we were. And I told him. And he goes, stay away from downtown. I said, why? And he goes, there's a mass shooter and downtown is locked down. The range of emotions I felt and my heart pouring out to those who are affected by it. It's
Absolutely.
just unexplainable, but it is so important to listen to your claircognizance because it's there to keep you safe as well.
Definitely. Your gifts are there to aid you in your life. And Gia, you reminded me of something, switching back to empathy and Clairempathy. It can happen on a global level.
Yes.
So, using, as we are in the US, let's use some US examples. I still remember the world slowing down when the towers fell.
Oh my God.
I still remember that feeling.
Yes.
And I was in 9th grade civics class, and they announced it over the speakers, and everyone, like, we had to turn on our TVs and watch the news, and that never happened in school. And then recently, actually, with Maui, with the fires there, I've had many people who are Clairempathic say that it is very difficult for them and they are mourning too. Now with that, with any tragedy, I want to be very, very clear about boundaries and respect. Your Clairempathy is real and it's a gift and it's beautiful, but that does not outweigh the suffering of a people. So like if you were to meet someone from Maui and be like, oh, I suffered too. No, you had Clairempathy. They ran away from fire. And so I want to be clear about that because that's something, a toxic trait that I have seen recently, specifically with this tragedy, that people are claiming it as their own. They're not seeing it as Clairempathy. They're like, this affects me. It's like, it does not affect you at all.
Exactly.
It is tragic and you need to feel that, mourn that, send them love, light, and healing energy, send them toilet paper, and any other supplies you want to. But that is Clairempathy can be felt worldwide.
Those are great points. I love that. And I love it too, because I've known people who've been through really bad, large situations like that. And then also, I've personally been through wildfire, actually been through the darn wildfire, got lung damage from the wildfire, spent the sleepless nights wondering if we were going to get evacuated in time before we'd burn down. Seeing the apocalyptic red skies and the smoke and hoping to God that a fire tornado didn't start. I love that. I love that you brought that up because it is incredibly important to be cognizant of what people are actually going through.
Yes, and not claiming anything with your psychic abilities. So
yes,
there are many things that you have to have shielding, grounding, boundaries, and ethics with as you learn your gifts. Because if you leave and your throat hurts just as much as your friend's does, but they're the one who's sick, that's not good. You're not meant to inhale anyone's illness as your own. If you're a healer, you're meant to heal them, not taking it on yourself, but put it up into the universe or down into Mother Earth. So using your gifts in a really responsible and ethical way is important, because these gifts are cool and awesome, and learning the foundations are super important and healthy. And getting up on my little soapbox, I have a real problem with people who don't. I have severe issues with people who don't do ethics, don't do boundaries, don't do grounding, and they absorb everything and they think that makes them more powerful or more special. Like, I am such an intense psychic that I feel everything. Sweetheart, if you are too stupid to shield correctly and you feel everything, that's a you problem. Like, that is a problem that is you. And it's not to bash on anyone. Some people, they just don't know, and please seek help. You know, we're here to help. But the thing is that some of these people know, and they still do it that way. And it's like, I actually refuse to touch those people. When those people try to like hug me at events, I'm like, don't touch me. Because I have had women say, and it's always been women, no shame, but it just random fact. They come up and they hug me like, oh, you're so negative. I'm going to take all that away. And I pushed this bitch off and I said, my energy is my own and I do not consent. Like, whether I'm negative, positive, or a straight up C word, it's me. Like, you can't take anything without consent. So please be mindful of that. So that's my little PSA of the day. So
just want to say I'm right there with you. I actually, when I go out in public, it's almost like I put a bodysuit on. No, I don't.
Porcupine.
Need a hug. Like a hug? I know. I'm like, a hug might lead to a punch, just FYI. So, you know, like, don't hug me. Not unless I invited you to hug me, which is only in my small inner circle, you know?
At least you're upfront about it. Some people, it's a surprise. So the last Clair of the night is Clairtangency, and it's the natural ability to know meaningful and pertinent information when you touch things. And so another synonym, they're not exactly the same, but synonym is psychometry, being able to psychically read an object clearly to get information from that object. And here's the thing, this was just handy. Let me tell you what, it's just handy. You go thrifting, you go anywhere and get some hand-me-downs from somebody. I have gifted forward many things, and I'm always like, I straight up told someone, I got a gorgeous hat from somebody, but it made my face just look stupid, if I'm being honest. It had a brim that made me look like a giant moon. It was awful, but it was a gorgeous hat, and I knew someone who loved this style hat with this brim that actually looked good on her skinny little face. And I gave it to her, and I said, I kind of want to be clear. This needs to be cleansed before it goes in your house here, because I had got it from someone that wasn't a very nice person, as like a hand-me-down. And I was like, I cleansed it, but you're going to want to like cleanse it again before you get it. And so, because you don't want that on your head.
No.
Your connection to universe just covered by poo.
Well, think of it this way. You don't want to end up with an Annabelle either.
No.
I just gotta throw that out there because we're getting into the spooky season. I'm a spooky kind of gal, and
now I'm gonna have nightmares.
I'm sorry. Well, don't buy weird looking ass dolls.
I don't.
Don't go into the thrift store and buy a weird ass doll.
No,
don't
never.
do it.
On a cool side note, as we're getting into more of the spooky season, I actually was on a radio show recently where we did one question readings. Mm-hmm. And so people got to call in and message in and get one question readings as the spooky season's getting closer. And it was a lot of fun. I can't wait to do it again. It was on AM 950 with Greg B on Ghost Box Radio. It was just, I love that kind of stuff. So for all you spooky people out there, welcome. We love having you here. And as we're still going to talk about this last Clair, but I want to remind people to like, share, follow the podcast. We would love to grow, hear from you guys. And of course, if you want to hear a different topic or are super into something and want some more details on it, pop it in the comments and we will do our best to get it recorded as soon as possible that our schedules allow, because we're all adults who have adult lives. But we want to make sure that we're engaging with you and that we're interacting with you guys. And would you mind telling me everywhere we are? Because that's something that I'm not good at. Like we're on Apple? No, we're not. We are? I don't know. Okay, you go.
What?
Where can people find this podcast? I know it's on YouTube.
Oh, we're on Spotify. We're on iHeartRadio. We're on Apple, Podbean, pretty much any of the major podcasting places we can be found on.
Perfect. So guys, if you can't find us on one, I'm sure you will find us on another. Continue to watch, listen, and enjoy. So that is my remembering to do that. I love about Clair Tangent that I had one of my trainings when I was super young, when I was still a little baby. And we had to do training where we had to trade objects with another person in the class. And this woman gave me her watch, and I could describe to her exactly what her bathroom looked like, because that's where she kept the watch. She took it off at night in the bathroom and put it like in the jewelry tray. And then I also could describe every fight she had had with her husband in that bathroom, because they always fought in the bathroom, like turning on the shower so that the kids wouldn't hear. And so like that, all of that is packed into that one object. So, I mean, that's just goes to show you, cleanse your house, cleanse your objects if you wear them a lot. I cleanse my hats on a regular basis because, as most of you know, I wear hats all the time. I think that Clair Tangent is just useful and amazing. And you can get a bad vibe from something. Like, even if you like it a lot at a shop or a store, and it's like, ooh, but I get a bad vibe. Maybe it's because it's going to rip when you're wearing it to that fancy dinner. Don't buy it. Like,
yes, I want to play a really fast game. I know we got to watch our time, but I would like to really quickly ask you ladies ask you guys an example and tell me which Claire it falls under.
Oh, I was muted. Bring it on. Let's
okay.
Go. Sweet. Let's go.
All right. I'm going to bring out the big guns right now. And I don't want you to go back too much into this memory because I know it was scary. But.
Oh, damn it.
All right. Here's the example. Gold Camp Road, Colorado Springs. We're in a car. We're driving in an area that has been filled with violent history. We stayed in the car. We did not touch anything outside of the car. Yet, we each got separate experiences that ranged from hearing voices, hearing screams, seeing images of past incidents, and a sense that had us wanting to run out of the hills.
Ooh, okay. So
in those Clairs.
First one you said was clairaudient, hearing voices and screaming. Second one is clairvoyant, seeing things that have previously happened. I know it's a subcategory of clairvoyant. The third one, getting a sense. Is it clairsentient? No. Is it clairsentient or clairempathy?
That one is a tricky one. I agree.
It is. For me, it was that warning bell, get the F out.
Mm-hmm. There you go.
Cognizance.
Yes. We had that.
Okay. Yeah, a nice little mixture in there. I love it.
There was also like the fear and the goosebumps and that kind of thing too. So that would fall under the not clairestience. Which one would that be? Where you're feeling the energy. Yeah, that is kind of clairestience. Not in the way we described it, though.
Okay, my next one is, I'm going to use an example from our previous podcast. You're lying bed next to your significant other. You're abruptly woken up by the smell of a fruity chemical smell. When you recognize it, you realize that your significant other, who is diabetic, needs insulin immediately. What Clair is that?
Clairalient for the smell.
Yes.
Claircognizant for the knowing that he needed insulin because of the smell.
Ding, 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 ding.
Woo!
Okay,
we need a game show.
I know, right? Those are the only examples I could come up with. But yes.
I love it. Oh my gosh. Yes, I think we should play games way more often. That was fun. So those are the Clairs. Part 1, again, please go back and listen if you haven't listened to it. Part 2, we're just wrapping up here. Now, I would like to talk just briefly, my little teaser, because you know I'm a little hoe that way. The next episode we are going to be doing is going to be the Tellas. So these are more spiritual and psychic gifts. So things like telepathy, telekinesis, teleporting, that is all going to be discussed in our next episode. So please, everyone, tune in and make sure to like, follow, and share, because we are all here to serve you and make sure that you're getting the information that you need in a fun and entertaining fashion. You couldn't tell, we like to whoop it up here. So thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Are there any final thoughts about the Clairs that anyone has?
I just wanted to give an example, because a lot of these we were kind of giving examples of how to tune in or, practice with them. And I loved that Gia brought up, when our phone rings, the yes or no for the Claircognizance. Because one of the things that I found really helpful for fine-tuning that for me, I can't actually take credit for, it was taught to me, was using the red light, green light.
Yes.
Have you heard of that? So you can use your body as a pendulum and yes or no. Another way of fine-tuning this is what really helped me a great deal is if you're thinking about a traffic light, and traffic light, the reason why I say traffic light instead of just red light, green light is because the yellow is proceed with caution. So if you wanted to tap in and play around with it, just play with it in all different scenarios and examples just for fun. And try to imagine a traffic light and see what color you get, and then honor it. Whether you believe it or not or whatever, honor it. Once you're honoring these things, they become more and more fine-tuned, and you become more and more correct.
I love that. Traffic lights. I love that. Yes. And put your traffic lights in the comments. Let's see what's red, yellow, and green for y'all. And it's trial and error. It's self-discovery. It's a journey. It's meant to be fabulous. It's not meant to be quick. Savor it. It'll be wonderful. A nice way to do Clairtangency is with crystals and healing stones, and that'll also connect you to nature. So if you start with holding those and feeling their energy and reading their energy psychically, that'll get you in a really good spot to be able to do this with other objects. And then you can also do it with your own objects, but also with other people's, so that your bias isn't in there. Pick up a friend's watch or something like that. That's always lovely. I love the Clairs. I think They are really the bedrock, the foundation of spiritual gifts. They're the ones so commonly talked about. That's why we talked about them first. We want you to be able to use them and be the heroes of your own story and be able to create with them. And remember that if you have trouble or need help, you can always schedule a session with me. You can always tune into more episodes. There are resources out there for you, and we want to make sure that you're getting them and that they're accessible to you. So, Gia, any final thoughts about the Clairs?
No, I think this was an amazing discussion. So thank you. Thank you both.
Wonderful. All right, listeners, thank you so much for tuning in to Seeking the Light of 1,000 Suns. Make sure to like, share, and follow if you are so inclined. Tuned in for our next episode, which will be about the Tellas. I am fairly certain we are going to have some very interesting examples for our next episode. You're not going to want to miss it. We appreciate all of you. We want to help all of you. Please comment if you need anything. Go forth and have lovely evenings, everybody. Bye.
Bye.